There's some breaking news to go over today. The Toronto Maple Leafs have made a very interesting move, and despite contrary reports, the Leafs have made a move that not everyone saw coming. But not only that, we have some other big updates surrounding the Leafs, and all this has huge implications going forward as Brad Living continues to not only peruse the trade market, but prepare for something bigger to improve this Maple Leafs team. But before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed. Folks, a lot to go over today, and obviously there were some reports floating around over the past while about the Leafs trading Nick Robertson and how they were going to arbitration, whether or not they were going to come to an agreement. They were very far apart as of 48 hours ago. And Darius, ultimately, in a bit of a surprising turn of events here, they got it done. So they've officially re-signed Nick Robertson to a one-year contract extension. And despite, it's been now almost 2 years, or a full basically year last offseason, now this offseason of last year, Nick Robertson requesting a trade, this year arbitration being over, double basically apart, over $1 million apart. They decided to get it done and get the extension done, which doesn't mean he's not necessarily going to get traded. But for now, we're going to see Nick Robertson next season, a part of this Leafs team. And there is still, avenues to make moves here, but 1.825 million. So Leafs actually stepped up their price a little bit. I don't know if I love it, quite frankly, but we'll dive into that. They got it done, $1.825 million. And with that concludes the entirety of the arbitration for the Leafs.
Well, we covered it yesterday in terms of what, the player wanted and what his agent obviously put out there and what the team was willing to do. And they met in the middle. So I think that's kind of fair. But this has major implications for the entire team, the roster heading into next season. This team is still, I don't want to say very incomplete. I think that this team as is would definitely compete and obviously would make the playoffs, but you're still missing a top six forward. You have to go out and do that. Now you have just over $1 million in cap space left. So I think it's a fair deal for the player. Listen, Nick Robertson, we can talk about the player, and we have ad nauseum, I feel like, over the course of the last, 365 days, because we were doing this last year as well when he requested a trade, if everyone remembers back then. But obviously, he's one of the best point producers for how little he plays, honestly. He's playing less than like 12 minutes a night and doesn't play every game. Now, is that his fault? I'm sure, right? Obviously, you'd like consistent players in your lineup. So if you're not consistent, you're not going to get into the lineup every night, of course. But when he does play, he does put up some points. And obviously 2 seasons ago, the health problems were behind him, all of that. Obviously, he had the injured shoulder a couple of years ago, right? I feel like he's put that behind him. He's able to stay healthy for the course of a whole season. He just hasn't played over the course of a whole season. So again, heading into next year, if they do decide to keep him, I don't hate the move at all. For everyone who's been around on the channel for a long time, I love Nick Robertson. I think that he could play a role on this team. I just don't see that vision with some of the moves that Brad Living's doing, and the fact that they came out and said, yeah, we need a top 6 forward. The money doesn't work right now. Even if you move off David Kampf and Calle Jarnkrok, there has to be something else to make that work. I don't know what top 6 forward you're going to find for $4 million. It doesn't make sense in my head, at least. So something has to give. Now, on the other side of things, listen, if they decide to keep him, I think it's okay, and I think he'll play a role on the third line. But on the other side of things, Nick, if they do decide to trade him to free up this salary cap space, that, of course, they just signed him to almost $2 million, I think this actually makes him more attractive. He comes with a contract now. He's not an RFA. Of course, he was headed for arbitration, right? But I think this, the fact that you have the contract is locked in for 1 year makes this more attractive, that you can now trade him, whereas last month you probably couldn't. It would have been harder. So I think that, it's a pretty interesting situation. I do wonder if this makes another player expendable, maybe like a Max Domi or something. I know I hate to keep bringing it up. Everyone hates it. I got Max Domi's jersey on the wall, right? Like, I don't want to trade him, but you have to think about it. Like, Brad Living has far too many bottom 6 forwards now. I know they wanted to retool it, but they have too many of them. So I wonder what's coming next.
Yeah, and obviously, I think more moves are coming for this team. Now, let's look at, Nick Robertson as a player for a minute here. I'm not a huge fan of him, but you can see, according to the contract, the market value, according to this, chart, is $2.6 million with a 69% positive value probability, which basically means there's a 69% chance that he outplays his $1.8 million contract based off of, the cap increase and everything like that, which makes sense. I don't think that the number is super expensive for the player, especially in a world where, a lot of players are getting a lot of money because of the cap going up. Now, on the other side, I just don't know how he fits on this Leafs team, and I think it leads to the fact that you are right. I think more moves are absolutely coming. You cannot start the season now with David Kampf, Calle Jarnkrok, all these guys, because it would basically be the same team as last year, except you added a lot more forwards. Michael Pezzetta, Nicholas Waugh, who doesn't really factor in, but factors in a little bit. Your bottom 6, your third line forward or center. You have a lot of other guys now that you added in. I don't know exactly where he fits. That being said, if I'm going to take the positive side of it, he has looked very, solid at times. You can see here his per 60 numbers have been extremely successful in offense as well as stable in defense. By his defensive metrics, it cannot be said that he was inconsistent. Everyone has weak games, but inconsistency in his case is a rather outdated stamp. So a lot of advanced analytics guys coming to the support of Nick Robertson, which is interesting to see, but it does make some sense. I just don't know where he fits on this team. Their projected cap space now down to 1.9 million. If you clear off, David Kampf, Calle Yarncroke, you can still open up spots for a top 6 probably, but again, now it's starting to become a little bit more difficult if they want to acquire someone. We're also into August now, and that was always, the report. The market's moving very slowly, but for Nick Robertson as a player, and we'll dive into the lines here in a minute, I don't hate it. It makes sense. It's a pretty big signing actually to get this done, because now it locks down anyone that they want to trade. They can go ahead and fully get that done. And maybe they were waiting to make the subsequent moves until they figured out Nick Robertson's number, and now they can go and try to move off of Calle Yarncroke and David Camp, which I wouldn't think moving off of Calle Yarncroke would be that difficult, but maybe it's proving to be that difficult after all.
Yeah, no buyers yet, right? But I think no buyers for those two guys specifically. Like, I think Calle Yarncroke specifically can help a team, right? I do think he can, and I think that he can play. We've seen it. He can play in a top 6. Now, I don't think it's a contender, but obviously I think that he can help a team. So I think that's interesting. I think a lot of teams are waiting for some dominoes to fall. Nick Robertson was the last arbitration case in the league, and they finally settled today, right? So they could avoid that tomorrow. So I think that a lot of dominoes are going to start to fall. I've been saying it the last week or so. I think Jack Roslovic also has to sign, and then we're going to see a lot of moves, because teams are very hesitant to make moves right now. Like, things are very quiet. I don't ever remember it being this quiet heading into August. A lot of teams are hesitant to make moves because there's a lot of teams that are kind of up against the cap, like a Toronto Maple Leafs, like a New York Rangers, St. Louis Blues, a couple of those teams right up against the cap. Though the Leafs do still have some wiggle room, but they have a move to make. They know they have a move to make. Now, I do think it's interesting that if you move off those two players, Kampf and Yarncroke, you have almost $5 million, or you should have at least $5 million in cap space. I wonder if Brad Treliving's planning on calling the Pittsburgh Penguins about either Brian Rust or Rickard Rakell. One of them could make a lot of sense on the Leafs, and they only make $5 million. And for their point production, which is roughly 70 points over the course of 82 games, that's pretty good production, that you can add there to the top line. And the rest of your team, I'm totally in love with what the Leafs have done with the rest of the team this year. You finally have a solidified third line center. And then obviously, I don't think like these lines are solidified, obviously, throughout the summer, but, it looks like you're going to keep McMahon. I don't know what's happening with Domi. Joshua, I would imagine, is a third liner. So you have a lot of guys that if there are injuries, you still have so much depth, and guys that can, play physical and score some goals, which is exciting. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do heading down the stretch here. I'm not 100% convinced Nick Robertson's going to go into the season with the Maple Leafs, but just because I'm not 100% convinced doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I do think that it is a value signing, but he has to play a bigger role, I think, next year, in terms of he needs more ice time to really get going, because if he's going to continue to play 10 minutes, 11 minutes, you're going to get that same point production, which could be okay with the rising cap, but I don't know if it makes sense, because you still need one more piece in the top 6.
Yeah, as the lineup currently stands, you have like $3 to $4 million with Kampf and Robertson on the bench every single day, over $4 million. And of course, you have Henry Thrun, who's a great value guy. But let's go down below what your thoughts are on all this. More moves are coming. It's just a matter of who and when. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.